that's true. Naked Palpatine.
Oh, you pick that one. Fresh out of the clone tank, nude Palpatine is my
Well, that's the first thing I think of when you say Dark Empire Palpatine. I spoke way too soon, and I now eat my words. I know through these reviews, I will not always appreciate certain things because I feel like there's just too much. And to an extent, I still think that that's true in terms of I understand the themes and the messaging behind it because it got to me here still. And I'm totally for that. I'm totally with it. And we'll get into it in spoilers. But it's just practically, realistically, I think it just may be a trap of a first time read. When you want to know how everything concludes, when you want to see that resolution, there's this inherent need, no matter how hard you try to cull it, no matter how hard you try to just enjoy the journey, you inevitably are looking toward the destination, no matter how hard you fight against it. And so you're looking forward to it and anticipating it. So any delay toward it can get frustrating, especially when it doesn't apparently seem to be relevant. And I will still hold to that when it comes to the Kirkana stuff, because that doesn't need to exist here. It is, hey, isn't this stuff in the past cool? Wouldn't it be cool if I wrote a book about it? Don't you want to read that book? And yes, I do. But it doesn't help further the plot here. And I guess that's not the point. But still, that is probably the only legitimate critique I have in terms of that. But I think, because immediately as soon as I finished it, I wanted to do a reread. But I'm not going to do that. I got other things I want to read, like Wheel of Time and stuff. I'll come back to this. You know, my rules, unless I get hit by a car or get cancer and die before. If I get cancer, I'm rereading this entire series ASAP. Like, this and the Bible are gonna be the two things in my brain until I croak. That got really morbid. My point is, it's either that for a reread, or once Steven Erickson finishes his sequels and finishes the prequel with the final book in the trilogy, and once Essamon's done with his stuff, only then will I go and do an entire reread of the series as a whole in chronological order. Whereas, you know, unless Essamon starts writing stuff after the God is Not Willing trilogy or whatever, then but that'll be fine because it'll be after the whole thing. And I could anyway, off track. But I did immediately want to reread it because now that I have the destination in mind, I know how it all concludes. I know that every little scene that maybe I didn't sit back and appreciate that first time through because I didn't know it'd be relevant or didn't recognize the relevance or just didn't appreciate, this time on a reread I would. So I can't wait to do that in the future. But I just want to say, you know I was saying, like, it's a grand finale, it should deliver. And it did. And I'm sorry to any of you who got frustrated with me in any of the previous videos. it did. It delivered in every way, shape, and form. I will say there's still a bit of things that don't really have an ending, perhaps. Ikram, for one, without spoilers. I'm so satisfied with what they gave me with Karsa Orlong in this book. However, there's also part of me like, that's it? After everything we went through with him, this is all we get? Also, for a book titled The Crippled God, and this whole being about compassion, however, Book 8, Toll the Hounds, was all about, or a good portion of it was, that you must earn redemption, that redemption is constant work. It is not something freely given, as opposed to other works like Star Wars, where it was the redemption of Vader was simply saving his son, even though he's killed countless people, so does that really make up for that? But the Crippled God is just meant to be this thing here, without spoilers, of course. And it comes to this thing of being like, well, where's your apologies for Memories of Ice? Where's your apologies for Midnight Tides? Or what you were doing to Seven Cities during the second book? Or so on and so forth. No true remorse, really. But it satisfies them. Every beat in the last 200 pages of this book hit, 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 hit. It is just I am shocked at how well Steven Erickson put this together, and I'll never speak ill of the man. This man should be by everyone on the entire planet. He should be recognized as one of the greats. He should be up there with J.R.R. Tolkien. He should be up there with Frank Herbert. Honestly, I still have the Chapter House Dune to read in terms of Frank Herbert work, and I have the 2 sequels by his son, which I know is blasphemy to some. But that's a whole other different discussion. But I guarantee you, reading that's gonna feel like small time potatoes in comparison to the entire Malazan series. Malazan, sorry. But I just want to say, like if you're questioning my thought processes or how stupid I am, you'd be right on all accounts, but I do recognize the brilliance within this book. However, the brilliance of this book also, I mean, this comes with any final book in a series. It is, well, this one especially is dependent on the setup of Dusted Dreams. This book doesn't really work on its own, and also being a resolution to the series as a whole. So by and large, if we're just judging it as a novel on its own, it can't really be, you know, it requires the context of other things. That being said, it's phenomenal, and it's definitely one of the higher up tiers of the Malazan books. I would definitely say a lot of that is recency bias. I think the last tail end of the book has me so hyped and fulfilled and kind of not knowing what to do with myself, which is why I immediately had to start Blood and Bone. Because it may not be Erickson, but it's still in my universe that I want to stay in. Which is crazy to say because so much darkness envelops this series, but the reason it's not grimdark is because there's hope there, which people always sing praises to George R. R. Martin. And now that I've read this series, honestly, why does he deserve that? Because, we're still waiting that finale. And it's because the man doesn't know how to do it. His entire thing was subverting the tropes of fantasy, but with subversion, you also need to have like kind of an alternative or something to satisfy. But everything was about like shock value and let's switch it up. So how do you conclude it? Though also the stinking impression that season 8 of the show was bullet points of what he actually wanted. And so now he's trying to rewrite everything. Although he's doing everything in his power not to write it. So it's like, are we ever getting that finale? Probably not. But that's a whole other thing. I'm derailing here. Crippled God is a masterpiece. It satisfies everything it needs to satisfy. It is beautiful. It is poignant. The ending and the 2 epilogues are beautiful and work so well, and it really makes the pain and the sacrifice that we've been seeing throughout the series in some sense worth it, because not everyone that we love got that resolution. Like Troll Sengar is one of my favorite characters, and he didn't get a happy ending. And he's never going to. But other people that I loved did, and they earned it. It wasn't contrived, it wasn't out of the blue, it wasn't, oh, Erickson's the god of the universe, so he can just whatever he wants. No, it all worked. It all made sense in the grand scope, and it's just a beautifully written tale that, and yes, this entire series has had different themes throughout, but the overarching theme of the whole work has been compassion, compassion, unyielding, unflinching, ultimate compassion. If everyone had this level of compassion, we would have a better world. But it's not going to happen because we are the fallen, and you know, it's great to be optimistic. Star Trek certainly tried to be, but I don't think humanity on its own will ever have true unity like that. I mean, unfortunately, if you look at the world today, it's us versus them. It's this versus that. There's no, oh, you disagree with me, but you're still human. It's you disagree with me and you are the enemy. And that's whoever you talk to. Whoever you're thinking right now, that's part of the problem. Because everyone does it. To everyone, no matter what. No side is better than the other. Everyone does it. But the world needs more compassion. Many people are hurting all across the world. Some realistically greater than others. However, the brain is a tricky thing, and your reality may be better than others, but your internal reality may be worse off than most. It all really depends on your circumstances and your mindset and multiple other factors. But if everybody had compassion toward them, the world would be a better place. And ultimately, I think that's the greatest thing to take away. It's hard to. We're inconsistent. We are hypocritical. We so often don't have compassion. But we must constantly try to do is have compassion for everyone, even those we disagree with, even those we don't like, because it will breed in a better world. But I hope that everyone would read this series. I don't know why you'd be watching this if you hadn't, but I want more people to read it. It's not easy, and I can't say that I always, within the particular text, enjoyed it, like all the way through. There are definitely parts that bored me or just went over my head. Things that I just didn't resonate with me. Part of the thing of my critique of all of these different, named characters, big and small, is while, yes, kind of the point is that they all do matter. Because it's not just one person, it's multiple people who change the world. Just like we need to. Me being compassionate to my fellow man, that can make a difference for some, but the only way it's going to happen that's a macro level. The only way it's going to, or micro level, the only way it's going to happen on a macro level is for everyone to do it. Right? It's part of the thing. However, cynically, sometimes it's just not fun to read about this one soldier when I could be reading about this person that I care about. Just like, even though we should all have compassion, if I die on the street tomorrow and you don't know who I am, you'll be like, oh my god, but you're not gonna be mourning my loss as you would your wife or your daughter or your sister or your brother or your this or your that, because that's more personal to you, that's more knowable, right? This is the same sort of thing where it's like, yeah, I mean, that one soldier sad, but what about this guy that I love and care about deeply? So it's sort of that sort of realisticness, despite I'm not compassionate enough is the true heart of the matter here. Um, but nothing has affected me quite like this. I still hold that J.R.R. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit are some of the greatest fantasy works of all time. Silmarillion. But I don't know, and it definitely did affect me. It reinforces some of the things I hold in my brain, and nothing, I can never forget that scene um, in the movie anyway. I think it resonates more in the movie than it does the book version. It does good in the book too, but specifically in the movie when I think it's a perfect way to adapt that scene, but make it a little bit more personal with Boromir, you know, attacks the hobbits and then regrets it and saves them and then dies, you know. But I don't know if anything in Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit or the Silmarillion hit nearly as hard as the Malazan Book of the Fallen series has done in its entirety for me. The only thing that I think has affected me as much in my day-to-day life would be, if you didn't figure out by my previous reviews, yes, I am a Christian. I believe in Jesus Christ. Sorry. I'm just saying that this is all about, the whole point of reviews is everybody's individual experience, okay? That's the whole point, is to give you different perspectives based on that individual that's particularly talking about the text. Me, that's the thing that obviously is going to affect me the most. It's the thing that changes my perception of the world and how I see it. And then because of how it helped me through multiple tough times, that's the Bible. And, of course, anybody who's seen my channel long enough, the Star Wars Expanded Universe, which was a collection of different novels and comics and short stories and young adult novels and video games and films, that were all collections by different authors, different writers to come together to make this cohesive whole. And that's because of how it affected me, story-wise, and because of the community that I kind of built for myself and with other people surrounding that particular topic. So those two things have really affected me. But now I have to add third to that list would be Malazan, Book of the Fallen, because it has truly touched me in a way that few fiction has had the ability to truly do to me. And again, I'll say I did not always enjoy my time reading this series. Just reading it through. However, every time that I finish a book and I kind of ruminate on it and resonate with it, I appreciate it more and more. The themes, the characters, all that stuff sticks long after the book, even if there are parts that I could have done without. Deadhouse Gates was one of my lower viewed books when I finished it. Thought it was lesser than Gardens of the Moon. But the more I ruminated on it after Memories of Ice, after House of Chains, it only continued to build, and it's one of my favorites. Malazan, nothing's perfect. Neither is this series. And not everything may resonate with you. And different things are going to resonate with you that don't resonate with other people. Because we're all human, we're all individuals, we all have different preferences, and these books are long, and there's a lot going on in all of them. There's going to be different things that stick out to you. I was also reading the Esselmont books throughout it, which, some people would say wasn't good. And this is a different writing style, and that's a whole different discussion to talk about another day. But regardless, I was in it. And no matter how I felt about any individual work, coming out of it, looking on it as a whole, right, at the broad scope, there's nothing quite like it. And nothing has resonated and touched me so deeply as this series as a whole has. It is something that I'm genuinely glad I read before I died. And I genuinely think that you should try this before you die, if you haven't. I don't know why you're watching this if you haven't read these books already. I don't even know why I'm addressing you like you haven't read this already. It has my seal of approval, for whatever that's worth. Me randomly screaming into the ether in my bedroom. But I loved it. And I know, if you stuck out 9 books now already, that you will too. That's my thoughts, non-spoilers. My longest non-spoiler section of all time. And now, let's get into the book proper. I'm going to miss some things. I'm sorry. Stick with me. Book 7, Your Private Shore. So, something interesting here. The Assail created in the past a Barghast army. And the reason that the Barghast have white skin is because they purposely gave themselves white skin so that they could look more like the Forqual Assail, which I thought was crazy. Reverence has the Crippled God's heart. A lot of stuff was happening. Beers was gonna die, or Bryce. I forget however you're supposed to say that. But Mael saves him. Now, Mael might not be that close to Veers or but he loves T-Hole like a son, so he saves T-Hole's brother. One of the parts that probably hit me the hardest in this entire section, I know I'm skipping a lot, which was we had Gessler and Stormy. It didn't make me cry. That's coming up. But it was very distressing as they both meet their end. And that was rather rough. But actually the part that got me to tears was is that later? I don't remember. No, it's here. The entire Karsa section. It's not long. But Karsa is keeping to the promise he made so long ago. To kill a god. Just not the god he thought he was going to. He goes into Darushistan. And he meets an old man. A crippled old man that can't use his hands anymore. And I didn't realize till after I finished the book. But that is the same man from Memories of Ice. The man who prayed to the crippled god to remove his pain. In his, I think he had like a cancer in his legs or something. Or something. And so the crippled god just removed his legs. He's like, okay, no more pain. Man, so long ago now. So small in the grand scheme of things. But Karsa sits with him and talks about well, first, the old man, I didn't write down his name, I should have. Manag, something like that. He talks about how he, all the potential that he had as an artist. And how that all has gone away. But how many people have potential and talent, that they never get to use, just in general. The lucky few that get to properly, to their full potential, show off what they have to the world. Whether that be a professional actor, voice acting or otherwise, or, in Hollywood, films and TV shows, or being a world-renowned chef, or being a triumph by being an Olympic athlete, or this or that, You see a lot of people, but in reality it's a very small percentage of the population. Most people live their day-to-day being unwitnessed and unknown, never being able to live up to their full potential. Just kind of hit me a lot, because I am trying to act, whether in reality or I don't want to be real. I mean, like, live action things or voice acting. I believe that I have. I'm not gonna say like I'm great. I don't know. I took one intro drama class in high school, and was too nervous to actually like join up with a drama club. Could have been doing it since like elementary school. Pretty sure I walked out on a play way back when I was in elementary school. I don't think I had a big part, but I still walked out. Middle school, you never see me in there. I had no confidence. But I was in high school, senior year, I only had 5 classes. I didn't need 6. This is a whole personal thing, but I'm mentioning it because it swelled up to me during that part. But, here I was, and I needed an elective, and I've always liked film, I've always liked storytelling. So I took it, and there's this weird part where I had to do this 3-minute scene with a partner, and there's all these books, with like scenes from plays and stuff that we were meant to pick from. But my teacher, for whatever reason, decided for me and my partner that no, you don't need to look through it. I have one for you. Like, she didn't do that for anybody else in the class as far as I'm aware. Maybe that's my limited perception, but I'm pretty sure everyone picked from those books except for us. She picked out a scene. I think it was from a play called The Rabbit Hole or something. But the scene, the precursor to the scene, like the context, is that there's this couple, their kid got hit by a car like a year prior or whatever. And so the husband, will watch the tapes frequently. He'd get up in like 3 a.m. in the morning, get out from his bed with his wife, and go and watch those tapes of his kid that they had. And one day he's watching it, like after dinner, his wife's washing the dishes, and he goes to watch his kid's tapes again. He just watches it a lot, and they're not there. And so that's where the whole scene begins. Because I guess the wife didn't know that he had been watching it the night prior, and she recorded their favorite show over it. So now it's gone. That's sort of seeming. That's a really heavy thing for somebody who's never done anything before. And then after that, I did a 3-minute monologue from Look Homeward Bound Angel or something like that. I forget. And that was just me by myself. And I made my teacher cry. So, again, not really a lot of theater experience, but enough to go, well, maybe there's potential there. But, life gets in the way. I allowed myself to be consumed by friendships and stuff that didn't pan out. And yet, despite that, with all the compassion in this series, people that I feel personally betrayed by, that I gave all my loyalty and trust into, that just tossed me aside like I was scraps off their plate. I can't help but ultimately wish them the best. I hope they have the best life. Genuinely. And it's getting a bit personal, so I'll drop that. The point being, I've taken up a lot of time with other things. And work and everything, reading these series. No one gives you a rule book on how to be an adult. Let alone, hold on. No one tells you how to be an adult. No one tells you how to become an actor, or to become a voice actor, or to become a world-renowned chef. Like, no one tells you how to do these things. So you kind of just have to navigate in the world. And some people will be successful. You have people younger than me that are successful actors. You have people that are like my same age that are doing stuff, or a little bit older, like Timothy Chalamet and Zendaya and all these people, and they're amazing, and I wish them nothing but the best. And it's not even about the spotlight or the fame. It's just about, what am I really, really good at? And how can I maximize that to its full potential? That's the whole thing. I could care less if I'm famous. I just want to do what I love and be really good at it, instead of just being average at everything. Like the job I do, I'm easily replaceable. I'm not. I could die tomorrow and somebody else would easily fill up that position. It's nothing special. I'm not special, but then most of us aren't. But I guess that's kind of the point, right? Like, most of us aren't. But we still matter. There's so much kindness we might bring into the world, and most of the world will never know. But does that mean it doesn't matter? Just because it's unwitnessed? No. But to get away from myself, and back to the scene as a whole, Karsa talks about how when he walked over to see this old man on his way over, he walked over a bunch of dead bodies. Because in this society, in this civilization, in this city, people saw it. Maybe they're like, oh no, but they didn't do anything about it. Because they're strangers. They didn't go to comfort this man, these people in their dying moments or while they were sick, because it didn't matter. Now I know that Steven Erickson may not be religious necessarily. I'm not sure. Pretty sure he's not, though. But even if you don't believe in it as reality, perhaps just as a story worth preserving in terms of morality, look at what Jesus did for, the lame and the leper, hanging out with people that everyday people want to associate with, or want to give the time of day. Karso talks about how in his village, you would never just be left to die. You would have someone there. And so Karso just basically holds him till he fades away from the world, so he would not die alone. It was one of the few times in this series as a whole where I was in tears. I was crying. And then I go from that to one of the coolest scenes, where Karsa goes into the temple and kills the god of Fenir, or like a statue or like temple or something of Fenir that kills Fenir. And because Fenir is actually at the battle that's going on right now. And so when he does that, like blood sprays everywhere, and it brings the Talanamas like back to life. Like it gives them flesh again, like they are alive again through that. And then freaking Hood, the former god of death, becomes like a living Jagad again, which was really cool. And just a bunch of crazy anime stuff like that happened. Oh, speaking of which, if Malazan was ever to get an adaptation, I started watching Arcane. Something like that. We need the Arcane look for Malazan. I think that would be brilliant. But yeah, that Karsa scene, maybe one of my favorites in the book. Maybe one of my favorite things in the entirety of this entire franchise was that moment. I'm still left feeling a bit like, is that it for Karsa? I mean, his whole thing was he's going to make the world turn back. I know that the sequel trilogy doesn't really have Karsa. It has his son, but it doesn't have Karsa. So I just, seeing where he starts off in House of Chains to here, there's so much satisfying payoff to most of his character, but it's like, that's it for the last time we see him in the main series. It just feels a little underwhelming. But that's more nitpick than anything. I wouldn't change anything about it. I just, from someone who I loathed at the beginning to someone I fell in love with, I just wish there was more. So, moving on. Next page. And then, I think we kind of saw this coming. If you were reading and kind of like trying to look for where it might go. But Torrent kills all Arthil, which I think only makes sense. And everything that follows from that, I think, yeah, I mean, that makes sense. It didn't really hurt me emotionally, but for someone that only got introduced in like book 9, I mean, he had a satisfying conclusion with all that. Another moment that almost made me tear up but didn't was, Fiddler's been rather kind of rude to Hedge, but it's ultimately, he doesn't want to go through losing him again. And there's a part where he goes like, not you, too. Like, I can't deal with it again. I've already lost everyone else. A good portion of those I cared about. I can't lose you, too. It was just a great little moment. Ballistic, again, kind of goes on his rants about Tavor, as everyone has been doing this entire book, and if you think about it, for a good portion of this series as a whole. Tavor explains that she saved Blistic 3 times when he was meant to die, and she successfully stopped him from dying 3 times. And that he's going to fight, and he's probably going to die, but he's going to do it. Crone and her crows go to make a body for the crippled god. The crippled god says, way back, I'd assume, after Night of Knives and Midnight Tides, that Shadow Throne offered to free the crippled god. Though maybe after Memories of Ice, considering what he does. Unless that was part of the plan. I don't really get it. And then we get to one of the other saddest parts of the book. And again, I feel a little unsatisfied because it really made Ikram seem like this really endgame player, like something that really would matter in the grand scheme. But in reality, I mean, as far as this series is all concerned, he doesn't really affect the ending. Like, you take Ikram out and nothing really truly changes, I feel. Which makes this feel rather pointless and painful. But I also can't see Mappo doing anything else. Calm, the forecast sail, is over section where Ikram's at. Mappo returns, and instead of getting reunited with Ikram, he ends up fighting Calm and losing terribly and dying. And of course Ikram sees that, he's like, that's not cool. Even though he doesn't remember who Mappo is, and kills Calm. And then Ikram just continues to walk around like he always does, kind of aimlessly. But you know, for someone who's had such a sad way of it, someone who didn't really live a life of their own, that dedicated everything to Ikram, and then grew a close, great bond of friendship with this person, to have it end like that is just rather depressing. I suppose there's a happy ending for Ikram, but Mappo's life is, what did it amount to in the end? I mean, it was Mappo and Ikariam, the duo that we loved, and they stopped being a duo in book 6, and they've never reunited in all this time. And then when they finally are about to, Mappo's just gone. And it just makes sense. And I'm almost crying. I'm not going to. But it hurt me quite a bit. As someone who, no matter how I felt about Deadhouse Gates the first time, one thing that never changed was Ikariam and Mappo. Favorite characters. But at least Ikram's still sticking around, I guess. But I don't know. It was not a favorite part of the book. And then we have, I was a bit confused. So Tavor says that she's a child of the Emperor. Is that because she's a soldier? Or is she, like, actually a child of Kelvin? I was so, like, kind of lost by that. And I may just be dumb, and I probably am dumb. But some clarification in the comments, I'd appreciate with that one. Tavor has this huge speech, and the Tavor's speech, again, was kind of something that's been said before, that's kind of reiterated here, which was, I mean, I know in Deadhouse Gates there was a big speech about the unnamed soldier, and here again, you know, we have Tavor saying, like, listen, everything that we're doing, from the lowliest soldier, you know, to me, to whoever, like, at best, history will remember us as a group as a whole. as the bone hunters. And whether that's positive or negative, who's to say? It could go either way. But as for us individually, none of us are going to be remembered individually. Most of you, good portion of us, are fighting this battle, and no one's going to remember us. But that's not the point. We know why we're here. We know what we're doing. I mean, they didn't for a lot of them didn't. That's why they were complaining. But the whole thing was, like, again, unwitnessed. You know, you do what you have to do, no matter the praise or recognition you may get from it. You're going to get none. But you're doing what needs to be done. You know, I'm paraphrasing. I'm not doing it justice at all. But I did in myself feel a bit of a reprimand for how I had been acting throughout Dusted Dreams and Crippled God. And through most of the series, I mean, that is the entire overarching theme. That is the point. You know, it is not just Gano's parent. It's not just Fiddler. It's not just Mappo. It's not just this character or that character, or this one or that one. It's the collection as a whole, from the lowliest soldier, from that one infantryman to the next, to the guy that, I don't know, feeds them. I don't know. Whoever you're thinking, you know, just every soldier matters. Every soldier helps whatever goal needs to be achieved. You know, it's not just one commander that saves the day. It is the group as a whole that works together to bring about whatever change. You know, which is why we get so many perspectives throughout the books of soldiers. You know, and some of them are memorable and some of them aren't. But the point is that they may be unwitnessed in history. In the sequel trilogy, a lot of those characters that I read, you know, for pages that I thought were useless and pointless, they won't be remembered. They won't be in the trilogy. They won't even be mentioned because they didn't matter. But we, as spectators to this series, got to witness them. We bear witness to their memory. Even if no one in their world, in their universe, in their reality recognizes what they've done, we do. We bared witness to their sacrifices, to their triumphs. We did. And that is the point. But again, it's not always fun to read those. It's just not. But that's not the point. Every person in these stories, they mattered. Even if they don't really. But they mattered because they exist, because they fought, because they had courage. Even if they died shortly after picking up a sword, you know, they fought and they died doing what was necessary, what needed to be done. And let's be honest, most of us would be those random soldiers. Most of us would be dying for the cause, and we won't be remembered, but Devore will remember. Devore will remember what we did. She remembered everybody's name, man. That was another thing. This is also the most talking we ever get for Devore, ever. But it was good. It made me feel bad about my critiques. I mean, I still think there's some truth to it. But I understand. And I get it. I really do. I understand. I get it now. I mean, I did get it before, but I felt it now. And Ganos and Devore finally reunite. They never saw each other in the books. Or they did. Did they? Did they meet in Gardens of the Moon? I don't remember. But the point is, 10 books. 2 family members. And only now do they reunite. And the emotional outpouring of Devore looking at Ganos and just being like, I lost her. I believe referring to her sister all the way back at House of Chains, and her just sobbing into Ganos' shoulders, just incredible. You know, they always say Devore is cold, Devore is this, Devore is that, but Devore is one of the most compassionate characters in all fiction, and we just didn't realize it, because she holds everything close to the chest. She is not telling us how she feels. Most people don't. If I ask you, how are you today? You're going to say, good or fine. You're not going to go trauma dump on me all your problems. You're going to tell me, oh, actually, my wife just left me. And actually, I'm having a terrible time today. Actually, my car broke down. Actually, everything sucks right now. Actually. Like, you're not going to tell me that. That's kind of Devore. But she is one of the greatest female characters I think I've ever read. I never didn't like her. I just didn't know what to make of her because I wasn't given enough information. But now I love her. And now a reread sounds incredible just for her alone. Also, unless I'm mistaken again, all that Jade stuff from all the way back in Deadhouse Gates is the children of the crippled god, which is crazy. And then male Haboric ghost hands, yes. Cruel, Kroll, and the crippled god work together to come about this end, to stop the everything going on right now, from the Autorial Dragon, which I barely even mentioned in this section, to the thousands of other different things going on. They make a plan. But amidst all this, through all the epic battle going on, through all these crazy things happening, at one critical moment, Cotillion appears behind the crippled god and kills him. There's a scene with Eubula and his girlfriend now, and Icarium, who weeps for Mappo, despite the fact that he doesn't remember who he was. That's the last thing of real note in there for me. And then we have the epilogue. Well, the first epilogue, which is just a big love letter to Memories of Ice and a nice fitting thing for Corlott, who I had originally said died in Memories of Ice because I'm stupid. I didn't mean to say Corlott. I forget who I meant. There's a different character that had died, but I said Corlott, and I was rightly called out for it in the comments section because I was stupid and dumb, and I didn't mean Corlott. I'm sorry for saying Corlott, but yeah, Corlott's still alive, and she's here, and she has this whole thing with Whiskey Jack Stone, and she considers giving it back to the Bone Hunters, and they say, you better not, or we will hack you down to pieces, we will kill you. That is his symbol of love for you, and we know you live a long time, so we don't expect you to stay celibate or to not find anyone else to love, but just know that that stone has to stick with you, and when you die, this is your true love. He'll be waiting for you. Also, the fact that Whiskey Jack never loved another, which, I mean, he was an old man, or older when he met her, so I don't know if that's necessarily, or at least I don't know, but they made it seem like the only one he ever loved was her, which is crazy. And then, Epilogue 2, I mean, we've had a happy ending for pretty much everyone that was still around. Tool, happy ending. Talk gets to be a bridge burner, or a bone hunter, or a bridge burner in the afterlife, which was nice. Udinus, him and his family are happy. The rest of the bone hunters who get to live a pretty peaceful life, as far as we're aware. Then we have this moment. Cutter left at the end of Toll the Hounds and never popped up again. He was gone. I mean, there's a theory by A.P. Canavan that he may have been in Orb Scepter Throne by Ian C. Esselmont, but that is just a theory that A.P. Canavan has had. There's been no confirmation of such things. But there's a character brand new that says some things that makes A.P. Canavan think it might be Cutter. But we don't meet Cutter in this Epilogue 2. We meet Crocus, yet again, as he returns to that village where everything began in Gardens of the Moon, and meets up with Absalom. And it's a nice little bow on the Christmas present. A happy ending, which was great for them. But I guess Absalom really did take Cotillion's advice and lived her life, because she has no involvement in these last couple books. And then lastly, an old man fiddler tries to go fishing, talks to a child, says, "Your life's pointless. You're sitting here talking about nonsense, trying to catch a demon. What are you even talking about? I want to be a soldier. I'm gonna fight the good fight. I'm gonna do good. I'm gonna get glory. I'm gonna be the best." Very parallel to Ganos Perrin in the big prologue of Guardians of the Moon. And Fiddler says we can always use more soldiers. And that's kind of where we leave off the story, which was very beautiful. I think nice kind of circle there. Also, I had listened to the 10 Very Big Books podcast on this section. I did want to say that in 10 Very Big Books podcast, which you should all listen to if you need help going through the series, I know I did, Peter of the group says that the locust god, which shows up at some point, which was the desert that they were at, the wasteland or whatever, the Forkle Sales ancient god, the locust god that starts killing a bunch of the, I think at the sale. It might have been a different enemy force, I don't remember. There's so many. But it is a god from our world, which I thought was interesting. Jesus Christ fighting people. Whatever you want to take from that. But I thought it was an interesting notion, because there's no name for this god that does that. It just kind of shows up, does some stuff, and leaves. So, our god, whatever that may mean to you, interesting. But yeah, that's my thoughts. And I missed a lot, and I apologize. But I loved it, and I ate my words, because it did end extremely satisfying. And the Malazan Book of the Fallen series as a whole, again, changed my life. It is a phenomenal book series that I would recommend to anyone, and I'm so glad I read it. And there's nothing quite like it. But before we go, I'm going to leave you with one of the last things that Steven Erickson wrote in this book. And now, the page before us blurs. An age is done. The book must close. We are abandoned to history. Raise high, one more time, the tattered standard of the fallen. See through the drifting smoke to the dark stains upon the fabric. This is the blood of our lives. This is the payment of our deeds, and soon to be forgotten. We were never what people could be. We were only what we were. Remember us. And with that, what else can I say? Thanks for watching me discuss these books for months. Hope you'll stick with me for whatever else I have in store. I appreciate you. I love you. Appreciate everything. Comments, whatever. Subscriptions. Friends. And thank you, Steven Erickson. I doubt I'll ever talk to you, but thank you for these stories that you've shared. They have been quite a thing in my life. We still have some more Malazan to go, though. But as for the Book of the Fallen, we have concluded it. So whatever comes next. Thank you so much for watching. And we'll see you next time.